I do do. Nah, I do do. I do do. Who doesn't do do? You do do. Anyway, let's go. First of all, put out some new music a couple days ago on Friday. New project called The Grand Alliance. Artwork done by my buddy Detour Thomas Evans. Photographs taken by Blake Jackson. Goes by Blackson on the internet. A lot of really cool people involved in this project. I'm pretty excited about it. We have a couple vinyls left online. If you want to order, do it now because they are going to be gone soon. And this is a little collector's piece of artwork here. Some great people involved in this project. Anyway, it's another Music Gear Monday. I'm Carl Carell, and today we are talking about the Native Instruments Komplete Kontrol A-Series 49 key. It's been a couple years actually since I've gotten this keyboard, and I've never actually done a video on this keyboard. My thoughts on this keyboard and how I use it kind of in a day-to-day situation. It is one of the centerpieces of my studio, so I do use it quite often, but I don't use all of the functionality and features on it, but we're gonna get into them and show you some of the stuff that I dig on this keyboard and some stuff that I don't dig as much. Yeah. So we're going to be checking out the Komplete Kontrol. It's a smart controller. It allows you to control all of Native Instruments, loop packs, sound packs, different plugins that they make, a bunch of different sound banks in these virtual instruments that they make. It's a pretty advanced controller. As you can see, all these different buttons represent and do something special. I've enjoyed having this keyboard in the studio. I would say I don't really utilize every single feature that this keyboard has, but it has gotten me out of just being plugged into the screen specifically and being able to work my DAW by just using this and my push, kind of navigate around. Makes the workflow a little bit more seamless. So with that being said, let's hop into the studio and let's check out the Komplete Kontrol. So what we're looking at right now is the Komplete Kontrol, and I have open a sound bank called Analog Dreams. So this is what the keyboard looks like. You have the two screens here, and each one of these screens shows you a little bit of information. So if I'm in the actual plugin browser, it's going to show me all the different banks inside of each one of these different instruments. So these different instruments like Analog Dream, the one I was just in, you got the ARP 2600, and that right there is actually a Arturia plugin. That's the one thing we would talk about is NKS plugins, which are Native Kontrol standard plugins. These plugins are plugins that play nice with the Komplete Kontrol. To set up your NKS instruments for browsing and manipulating NI and third-party sounds from your computer, you're going to want to make sure you have the latest download installed of the Komplete Kontrol software. You're going to want to run Komplete Kontrol standalone so that it runs a product scan and updates the library. And that's pretty much it. Inside of the Komplete Kontrol software, this is what you're going to get on your screen. The sound bank or instrument that you have selected here, all the types. You have a category section that kind of groups everything together. Vendor section that shows you plugins by whatever company works with the NKS updates. For me, I don't have a ton of different plugins, and I'm going to change that soon actually. But until then, these are the sounds that I have. So instead of navigating this on the screen, what I could do is I hit browser on the keyboard. So I can navigate the sounds here on the right, and once I find a sound that I want to play, I just push down on the little encoder here, or the little knob, and I'm able to and there's some really dope sounds inside of this Analog Dreams. It's really one of my favorite one of my favorite sound banks inside of my setup so far. You do have things like Massive, where you can actually go in and really dissect and create. And so if you're familiar with Massive, you know you have a ton of different parameters to play with. And inside of your Komplete Kontrol on the screen, actually on the keyboard, these two arrows right here allow me to switch between the different parameters that I'm messing with, which is really cool. The other thing is I could actually add effects as well. So these little navigation buttons at the top allow you to go between effects, between loops, and between your sound banks. So see, now I'm on loops, and inside of loops there's actually a ton of different loop based sounds that you can mess with. This also works with sounds.com. So Native Instrument owns a company called Sounds. It's a website that you go to discover tons and tons of loops and samples. I actually have a couple sound packs on there. I'll link them in the description below, but tons of different loops and samples. You go on there, you link them to your account when you log in, and maybe I'll do a video about that as well. But this is what one of the loop packs actually looks like. So this is what it looks like on the screen. You have the actual waveform here. And so I'm able to browse through different loops and different sounds as well here. And so if I want to go back and I want to go back to my instruments, I use these top navigation buttons here, which allow me to go back and forth, have user settings, load different effects, just kind of do almost everything you need to do from the keyboard. It took a while for me to just get used to browsing and navigating and picking instruments and things like that through just the push rather than grabbing the mouse and doing it from there, since I was so used to it. Really enjoy the sounds. Some of the other features that are on the Komplete Kontrol, up in the top right hand corner, you have a scales button. This scales button actually allows you to play in different scales and play in different keys. And so you're actually able to see exactly what you're playing. If you want to stick to a certain key, or if you want to create like different key progressions or anything like that, you can use this setting. You see I have the root note as C, but I can change that, and you see this little strip of LED here changes every time you go through and change the key. The strip changes to the keys. Each one of these lit up little keys is in the specific key that you grabbed, and you got all the different styles in here: chromatic, major, minor, so on and so forth. You have different modes, so like you have a jazz mode, world mode. So there's a ton of different options for you. Really, really cool function to have built-in scales, and kind of like a way to show you your different scales, and it's a good tool to learn as well. You also have a built-in arpeggiator. Really cool stuff. So you have this built-in arpeggiator. You can also edit the arpeggiator rate, mess with the timing mode, the different style of sequencing, a ton of different stuff that you can actually do with this arp. It works on any of your digital instruments, so any of these instruments that pop up. So really cool setting, really cool feature to have built into a MIDI controller. And then you also have some different recording tools like quantize. You have an undo button here, a loop button here, button for your metronome, button for your tempo. So you can adjust those things. You can play, record, stop. A lot of flexibility going on here. The other thing is you have this little mixer button here, and this mixer button allows you to go between your different tracks. So if I wanted to go in and like turn something down, there you go. If I wanted to go in and turn something down, which I just turned down my microphone, it'll allow me to, mess with the volume levels, but also panning and different things like that. I don't really mess with that too much because I have my Ableton push, so I use my push more for navigating through Ableton. I do use the navigation to go through and find different sounds inside of the Komplete Kontrol plugins. I also use the arpeggiator. I use that as well. Play and stop, obviously, and record. You know, I use those whenever I'm playing some keys and wanting to record. Those are great features to have on your MIDI controller, which most MIDI controllers nowadays are going to have that. You also have a mute and a solo button, but like I said, I really don't use those as much as some of the other features. So I'm pretty basic when it comes to this controller. I don't really use it to its maximum capability, or at least I feel like I don't. I know some people come to the studio and they see me doing all kinds of wild, crazy stuff, and they're like, wow. But for me, it's pretty basic on this controller, the things that I do. You do have a pitch bend and modulation wheel, which aren't pictured here. They're kind of down this way a little bit. I use those as well. The one problem that I did have on this Komplete Kontrol was setting up the sustain pedal. I finally figured it out. What's funny is I made a video on my other YouTube channel and had no idea that many people were gonna have trouble setting up a sustain pedal on this Komplete Kontrol. The sustain pedal was such a headache to get down, so I'll link that in the description below. But yeah, setting up a sustain pedal was a pain in the butt. All right, as you can see, I have Logic open, and Logic, I've found, has been working a lot better with the Komplete Kontrol as far as different parameters and things go since I've updated to the new OS. So I'm seeing a little bit of a difference in how the Komplete Kontrol acts in Logic compared to in Ableton. And one thing, you know, Apple makes Logic, so obviously everything in Logic is going to play a lot nicer with their new OS. And one thing that I do want to point out that I've noticed in Logic, I'm going to play this little beat I was working on and let it play in the background just so you can see. So on my Komplete Kontrol, you see the levels here are actually showing you the actual level of each instrument. So, and I'm able to adjust, and you see how responsive. So in Ableton, it's not as responsive. The actual encoders are kind of jerky, and I don't know if there's a fix out there for it. I gotta kind of read into it. If you guys know any tips or tricks or anything like that linking the Komplete Kontrol to Ableton other than the guide that it comes with, because I just followed the guide and kind of just got what I got, and I haven't really messed with it since. But yeah, I'm able to really dial it in on Logic. And, you know, I use Logic and Ableton probably the most out of any of the softwares, but I seem to have more control in Logic than Ableton with this Komplete Kontrol. That's going to be it for Music Gear Monday. We're going to hop back into the control room and close it out. Before we wrap up this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. If you have any questions about the Komplete Kontrol, drop it in the comments below. We're going to hop over into the main room and wrap it up. All right, so the Komplete Kontrol S series, from my experience, this is a great controller. I've been enjoying it. It's a fun controller to play on. Hopefully we see more updates in the future, more things that we can do with those screens. Even though it does a lot, I'd love to see more. That's 1 year later with the Komplete Kontrol. If you own a Komplete Kontrol, let me know your thoughts down in the comments. If you're somebody that has questions or comments about possibly buying a Komplete Kontrol, or maybe a feature that you thought about that I didn't touch on, or something that can help anybody else with the Komplete Kontrol or looking for a Komplete Kontrol, leave it in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe. That's gonna be it for Music Gear Monday this week. Make sure to tune in next week. We've got some great software, some great things coming up. We're probably gonna touch on NAMM 2021, which it's gonna be harder to keep up with things coming out. We'll post some more about that coming up. We will see you here next week. Peace.